Hi, I'm Valerie Englehart, and in this video I'm going to be demonstrating how to paint these loose atmospheric daffodils as they connect on a previously painted watercolor wash. Now, unfortunately, I do not have the video of me throwing the orange and the yellow onto the page because I did that while sitting with my daughter at her activity table, and I really had no plans for this. I was just sitting and she went, "Mommy, paint with me. Mommy, use yellow." And I went, "Yeah, sure, okay." So all I did was grab a small 7x10 block of Academy cold press watercolor paper. I usually use this paper for studies. And I had my Winsor Newton palette, my first ever professionally purchased palette, and a size 8 silver black velvet round brush. And all I did was cover the paper going from the upper right down to the lower left, tilting my paper at an angle while just holding it. Like I said, I was at a kid's activity table and just splashed on some Winsor yellow. And you can really use any yellow. And then because I was thinking of sunny daffodils at the time, I grabbed some Winsor orange and just plopped it on the page. Just spread them out based on where I thought they would look good. So once that dried, and I let it dry naturally because once I was done painting it, I just moved on to something else with her. I took another look at it and went, I really could make something with this. But I grabbed different colors. Winsor orange is nice and all, but I don't get a strong range of values when I use it. So I grabbed my Aussie Red Gold, my favorite orange to use, and started by outlining the circles in the orange places I already had on my paper. So those orange spots were a guide that I could use. And by not completely outlining them, I've done a couple things. One, I've created a nice loose borderline abstract effect. Like if you look at my lowest daffodil, I really only created like a crescent moon shape. And by leaving some of that explosion of color outside the circle, it creates natural shadows. So it's a great way to create some shadows without actually having to think about it. Now, one of my favorite ways to paint is to paint negatively. So when painting these daffodils, to make the petals, I am painting the outside of the petals. So I'm creating the shadow around the petal. I'm not painting the petal itself. And I have picked a purple to use, and this is a Rockwell Art Lover's Tears. And I picked it because it is a very light, kind of a pastel, but still, like pastel colors usually have white in them, and I didn't want any white in the pigment. And this one's great because it's completely transparent and it's shimmery. So it's got a little bit of glam going on. Now I do need to be careful when placing my petals because these petals are going to overlap with each other, not just on a single flower, but going from flower to flower. And even on the petals, just like the centers, I don't do a complete outline. I'll outline certain portions and bleed it away. Mostly I'll bleed away from the petal, but I'll also drag some of that color inside the petal to create like the folds. And shadows are complicated, like not complicated like you should be scared, but complicated in that if you look at an object, there are shadows on the object as well as behind the object, or maybe on the ground if there's a cast shadow. And I want those shadows to be consistent. So I want there to be the purple on the outside of the petal, but let's bring some of that purple inside of the petal. Now, of all the colors, why purple? I picked purple because it is the complementary color to yellow. But I also picked this particular purple, which I already said why I liked, that it was light and springy and pretty. So if you are unsure of what purple to use, because there is a range of purples, you can get really dark, moody purples, you can get light, springy purples like this one, you can get them more red or more blue. So if you have a little scrap piece of paper on the side, just paint whatever yellow paint you're currently using and then plop some of that purple next to it. If it looks pretty, continue. Go ahead and put it on your painting. But if there's something that just looks off, maybe it's too moody, or maybe when the colors mix, instead of a lovely light neutral, you get just this like gross muddy color, well then don't use that one and pick a different purple. Now at the center of Daffodils, there's usually that shadow and the little bits where the, oh gosh, I can't even think of what they're called, stamen, deep inside. But I didn't want to use the same bright orange that I did on the outside of the trumpet, so I took that Aussie Red Gold and I mixed just a little bit of that purple with it. That way I toned it down slightly and I only used colors that already existed on the piece. I like to work with a limited palette to start with, and usually whenever I build up a painting, I will use colors that I've already used in the wash. Now this one is an exception because I only used yellow and orange, and the yellow and orange I used, they won't get dark values, they won't give me what I'm looking for. So in this case, I do need to bring in some other colors to create depth, but I don't want to go crazy and get distracting. I want this to be light and airy and dreamy. So I need to be mindful about what I choose. Now the other thing I decided was to bring in some Quinacridone Gold by Daniel Smith. Quinacridone Gold is probably my favorite yellow. I love that you can get, for a yellow, a decent range of values, and Quinacridone Gold glows. It brings a lovely sunshiny color to anything, and I find that Quinacridone Gold pairs well with just about anything I've ever tried to pair it with. So it's just a good all around. When in doubt, Quinacridone Gold should do the trick. Oh, and I forgot to call out, because I am doing some lovely light detail petal work at times, I am pulling out a size 1 script liner brush, also by Silver Black Velvet. So even though I do love to do most of my work using a single brush, mostly out of laziness, and these Silver Black Velvet brushes, like see I was outlining a petal right there, they have a nice fine point. So while I don't technically need the liner brush, it does give me extra control, and control in every way. Control of the line, control of my water content. So if you are strapped for money for brushes, go for a round brush. A size 8 should do you well. But if you've got a little more to spend, get a script liner. It is fantastic and also is great when it's time to sign the painting. Now, I've allowed the video to keep showing when I use my blow dryer. If you've been here for a while, I often tout about how I don't like to use a blow dryer. So why am I being a hypocrite right now? Well, that's because when I harp about the whole blow dryer, it typically has to do with your first wash, because if you speed up the drying process, you're not going to get those lovely colors and textures that will occur from letting paint dry naturally. But in this case, I'm just doing a lot of detail work, and because I am doing it so washy, where I'm letting like purple bleed from one flower to another, it makes it so if I were to go at this, letting things dry naturally at every step of the process, this would take me forever. I live in a damp climate, which can be great for watercolor because it means that it stays wet longer, gives me more time to work the wet paint. But if I've hit a stage where I need that paper to be dry, it is maddening for someone like me with low patience. And in this case, because I am just outlining things, I'm not trying to get a bunch of amazing textures going on. I'm just trying to paint negatively and move on. So in that case, using the blow dryer is fine. And ultimately, it's your choice. You're the artist. You get to pick what you want to do when you progress through your paintings. But I did want to call out, just because I usually do go, I don't like blow dryers, I don't like blow dryers. Okay, there is a time for the blow dryer, and that time is then. And honestly, the whole reason I even own a blow dryer is for painting. Dry my hair? Absolutely not. Work on my painting faster? Yes, please. And remember, shadows don't all have to be a darker, cooler color. I like to use the purple because there is that contrast and it is the cooler color, but Quinacridone Gold does get darker than that Winsor yellow I used, and so go ahead, make some dimension using yellow. I'm just saying that when it comes to yellow, you usually can't get those really deep, rich darks that you might want in a painting, but that doesn't mean don't ever use yellow in a shadow. Ooh, now, I don't know if you saw that, but one of the risks in using a blow dryer, even though I do keep it on a lighter blow setting, is there was a part that was very wet and it created a like splashy line mark going in the opposite direction of where I have my drips going. And so for some people, that might be a problem. You lose control and it's like, oh no. And if it's a really staining color, like Quinacridone Gold stains, well, then you're kind of SOL. But I didn't mind. This is just a study. This was just me having fun. And you know what? Sometimes maybe you do want that weird line going off to the side. And in this case, with this loose, washy, splashy style, it works just fine. Another tip for painting nice and loose, don't paint every single petal. Like, leave some of it to the imagination. Let some of it just disappear into the background. A lot of people have seen a daffodil. The fact that we have yellow and those trumpets and a few pointed petals, we can infer that these are daffodils. I mean, honestly, this painting, while I have told you these are daffodils, you probably could have figured out pretty quickly these are daffodils. And yet, this painting, even at this point, still isn't done. So trust your audience. They've probably seen a daffodil. And so just by putting in enough information, you are communicating daffodil without having to spell everything out. Just like in writing, nuance in art is wonderful. Now, one of the reasons I sped this up is, like, notice how, like, I'll do a small line and bleed it away, and it's just a lot of little detail work. And so just because a painting is loose doesn't mean that it's super quick or doesn't involve a lot of detail. It's just how you apply the detail, what you do with it, and where you place it, how much of it. Because there are some artists who can do like photorealism, and that's really cool and its own skill set, but I would go insane. I can't do it, and I don't want to do it. But that doesn't mean that I can't pay attention to details. And I want to point out another thing I like about this technique is I can really do it for any flower. And even at the beginning with the orange in the center, these didn't have to be daffodils. I could have painted those like Black Eye Susan flowers, or I could have done sunflowers. I just decided to make those daffodils. And so if you're ever not unsure about what you even want to paint, just start with a color. In fact, that's what I did. I didn't pick the color, my daughter did. And that could be another great thing. Maybe if you're stuck, one of my favorite things to do, especially when I would feel unsure about how I wanted to proceed, is I'd ask my kids, hey, elder one, here's a bunch of my paints. Can you like grab 3 of them for me? And then that would be it. And I would paint something using that color and then just let things go. In this case, I sat down with my daughter and she went, paint with yellow. And I went, yeah, sure, why not? And now it's become these beautiful spring, cheerful, sunny daffodils. So you don't have to always take art too seriously. Just grab a color, see what happens. Take a seat back, have some fun. And if it doesn't become a great painting, well, maybe you will have learned something. It's never a bad idea to practice. And here's the finished painting. So if you liked this video, press that like button so I know to make more like this. And if you have anything you want to see me paint, please let me know in the comments. I'm always looking for new subject matter. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.